Hello, my name is Kia West and I am a current student at Federation University. This is a video reflection on an assessment I have completed for theories and practices in social work. We had to write a 1200 word critical reflection on theories and practices in Australia, and I chose to sort of ground my critical reflection on my lived experience in domestic violence and explored the theories and practices and the gaps that I experienced in this social issue here in Australia. I wanted to reflect in this video on the process of putting that together more than the content itself. I will share a link for you to read that critical reflection if that's something that you're interested in, but for the purpose of this video I really would like to, I suppose, reflect on the actual process of it myself, for myself. So reflective writing is not new to me. It is something that I have practiced a lot in my previous studies, training to be a spiritual director. That was a key component. Even doing the Bachelor of Film, I had created a reflective practice that helped me sort of integrate my learnings each week. But I haven't really done it in an academic sense the way that I was required to for this assessment. So having that very well practiced skill of reflection was certainly helpful in this setting, and then being able to practice my not so strong skill set of academic writing was certainly complemented from having a prior knowledge or prior skill that could support me through this process. I found it really challenging to keep within the 1200 word. Using my lived experience in the domestic violence sector, I could have written a 2000 word critical reflection and still been needing to scale it back. There was a lot there for me, especially when it really came to digging into the different theories that currently inform it, the theories that we don't give enough credit or opportunities to practice, and especially when it came to looking at systems theory and nailing that as my call to action, that we spend more time investigating theories and practices and to actually move the needle when it comes to changing domestic violence outcomes in Australia. I'm going to do a whole other reflective piece on systems theory, which is what we're studying this week in module 3. It's something that I am geeking out on. It is so juicy and I'm really enjoying it. But that, as I went through this process and I was really actually digging through the literature, and it was really mind-opening. For the most part, I really loved this assessment. I felt really confident and excited to be choosing such a tender topic to support my critical reflection, being that I have significant lived experience, but also because that means that for me, I might actually be able to be useful in this field somehow, in some way, at some point in time. That is certainly my intention. The more, and having gone through this process with this assessment, I have a very keen eye on where we are going wrong, and I am very excited to keep exploring the theories and practices to see what we can actually do to create change. I have always kind of spotlighted the systemic fractures that have been my experience as contributors, the driving forces behind the domestic violence I have experienced, and felt very powerless to a system that it's like you can see it, but what do you do about it? And now, because of this assessment, I feel like I have a little bit more of a skill set to maybe be more impactful. So that feels really cool. That feels really exciting. Whilst it is vulnerable to be writing and exploring this as a concept, and using this for my assessment, it feels vulnerable in the sense that there is more moving parts than just me in this experience. And there is, it for me, the most vulnerable part is that I feel like my perspective kind of goes against the current grain. My contention is that our current systems are not working. Our crisis interventions, they are shallow. They don't really offer the safety that they intend to. I speak to the lack of resources for men, which I can just imagine a lot of feminists being upset about that, and that feels vulnerable to be coming forth with a position and it not necessarily going along with the current status quo of that. So there is a level of vulnerability I've felt whilst putting together this reflection, not wanting to feel misunderstood, not wanting to be misread or judged, essentially. But yeah, I'm very proud of myself for still doing it anyway and giving myself a decent amount of time to research, reflect, and construct my arguments in a way that I feel are powerful at the end of the day. So I will share the link in the description if you would like to read it. Please do. As always, when I discuss domestic violence, I'll always provide links for interventions, for supports, for calls. Out of my whole experience, they were definitely the strongest practice, being able to have crisis hotlines on call 24 hours a day. I have used them a lot, and they have absolutely been wonderful. There have been a couple of instances where potentially that call person on the other line could do with some more trauma-informed training, but for the most part, I have called in distress and been able to get off the phone feeling stable enough to either have a sleep or know who to call from there. So I will provide those resources in the chat. I invite you to I suppose if you are interested in reading the reflection and perhaps you do see things a little different to me, I invite respectful dialogue. It's something that I think we need. Sorry about that. There was a ambulance driving past there. Respectful dialogue is something that I think we absolutely need to be able to practice as a whole broader system. From the macro level to the micro level, your feedback is welcomed, valued, and yeah, thank you if you are hanging out and following along with these reflections and bearing with me. I am very grateful for you being here.